Hi, I'm Sejal Lannerman from URI Cooperative Extension, and today I'm visiting Hope in Maine here in Warren, Rhode Island, where food makers come from all over to make commercial products. I'm really excited on today's segment to focus on blueberries and how to freeze them. What are some tips and tricks? What are the best practices? We're gonna go through all of that and maybe a couple bonus information tips there as well. But before we do that, let's go visit a local farmer. We're gonna go to a pick your own operation. We're gonna pick a bunch of blueberries, get some tips and tricks along the way. Then we'll come back here and we'll show you all the different best practices when it comes to freezing blueberries. Jan, thank you so much for having us out here on this gorgeous day. I've been coming here with my family for years for Pick Your Own Apples, but I would love to learn a little bit more about the history of this farm and what else families can expect when they come out to visit.
Well, a little bit of the history. We started in the early 80s. We had a easy up tent, we had a goat shed, and we had a beer cooler. And we just sort of evolved from that. So we ended up starting out with strawberries in the early 80s, and then people kept asking us, what else do you have? What else do you have? So we just kept adding things, and we acquired piece by piece on the land. We just put some of it under conservation easement with the Aquatic Land Trust. We're around 100 acres. And good part of it's under cultivation now.
And of course, we're here to pick blueberries today, but you've got so much going on, so it really is fun if folks are in the area. And you know, we've had a relationship for a while because you've been in our Rhode Island Good Agricultural Practices program, a voluntary program for growers that want to show the public that they care about food safety and they're trying to grow food safe products. So what are some of the steps that you guys take to ensure that you're growing a food safe product?
Well, we try to be very judicious on our growing practices. We do crop rotation, we do monitoring of insects, pathogens. We have computer programs which help us out with that, working with URI, and it's become scientific a lot more than it used to be now. So we're just trying to keep up on the science.
Awesome. Well, this has been really fun, but I am so excited to pick blueberries.
You just head down that driveway,
okay,
and then take a left, and the blueberry patch is down that way. And we have a monitor there that will show you where to pick and help you out
Awesome.
with any questions.
Thank you so much, Jan.
All right, thank you for coming.
Appreciate it. August is a terrific time in Rhode Island to be picking berries, especially blueberries. Great to bring the whole family out here because they're relatively easy to pick in a short period of time, and they don't have prickers, which is really nice for the little ones. Now, before we start picking, a couple food safety tips for you. So the first thing you want to make sure you do is assess your health. Are you feeling good today? If you're feeling a little off and you feel sick, then don't pick. Make sure you wash your hands before you go out to the field or back out into your garden, and wash them when you're done as well. And so then you want to make sure you find a nice clean container. Usually when you visit a farm, it's going to be a single-use container like this. And at home, colanders work really well because then when you're done, you could simply put them in the dishwasher. And you want to look for ones that are really nice and blue. If you go down to the more purpley ones, it's going to be a little bit tartar. And of course, the green ones are just not quite ripe yet. Especially if you're working with kiddos, you might want to go out there and make sure that they're not picking blueberries directly from the ground. And when the season is right, sometimes there are just so many blueberries and we're gonna know what to do with. So obviously you're gonna wanna meet them fresh throughout the week, but inevitably you're probably gonna have picked a little bit extra. So now what are we gonna do with them? So there are many different ways to preserve them at home, but what we're gonna do is head back to the kitchen and learn how to freeze them and give you some tips and tricks along the way. Just had an awesome day at Sweetberry Farm, picked a ton of blueberries. I'm so excited to show you some tips and tricks for freezing them. But first, I want to introduce you to my partner in crime, Nicole Richard from the Food Safety Education Program, who's gonna help answer some frequently asked questions that we get all the time when we co-teach in person. Hey, Nicole.
Yeah.
All right, so you know the drill. We always get questions about what are the food safety risks associated with freezing? So that's my first question to you.
Freezing is great because it's very safe. You can freeze a variety of different foods. The most important thing is if you're freezing fruits and vegetables to wash them either before you freeze them or you can wash them after they've thawed.
For folks that are using a vacuum sealer, anything that they should know about that in terms of food safety?
Yes, that's a great question. With vacuum sealed food, it's really important that you cut a hole in the bag to make sure the oxygen gets in so that you don't have to worry about Clostridium botulinum growing in the bag and making your food unsafe. So just make sure you cut that hole and thaw it in the refrigerator and you're good to go.
Perfect, makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
See you again later.
Yeah.
All right. So now we are working with some of those yummy blueberries that we picked. And one of the first things that I did was I got them home and I washed them. And since I'm going to freeze them, I thoroughly dried them. I took some paper towel and even a nice clean tea towel and make sure I got off as much moisture as possible. So if you were to take those blueberries once they were done drying and just throw them into a container or throw them into a Ziploc bag like this, it will freeze as one solid block and it's gonna make it really hard to just scoop out a few later. So my trick for you here is to instead take those nice, clean, dry blueberries and lay them out on a cookie sheet. It could be a pan. I've already frozen these. You can hear that sound, right? That rock hard sound. So what we did was we spread out the blueberries and I took this and I put it into my freezer and I waited for about 4 hours, give or take. Now those blueberries are solid whole. So when I go to put them into a Ziploc bag, I can easily just scoop out a few a little bit later. But for long-term storage, we're gonna use a vacuum sealer. And most of the time they come with bags that are already set aside, or you can get an endless roll and cut what you need. So I think the blueberries that we're doing today are about 1.5 cups or so. So we are just going to cut a strip and you will notice that we are gonna have 2 open ends on either side. I'll show you that right now. All right, so we got the 2 sides. So we need to seal one of the sides. So most vacuum sealers have a compartment that you open up and you just place it into the little slot and then there's a seal button. And it just takes a second and you'll know when it's all set when the light turns off. Here we go. And then you can see there's a nice tight seal at the end. Now is a good time to label them. If you do a lot of freezing, you can write on there and you can even put, hey, 1 cup or 2 cups of blueberries. That way you know for that recipe later on down the road how much is in there. And now we just need to seal that other end. So we're gonna put that in there, but the neat part about what happens now is it's going to suck out the air first and it is gonna make a little bit of noise for a minute. So now I cranked it shut and I'm gonna hit the vacuum seal button. So easy as that. So for long-term storage, it's not a necessity for freezing things, but it is going to give you a little bit more shelf life, freezer life there down in the freezer. By making sure that we froze them individually, it's going to make it so much easier to just scoop out what you want. For that smoothie, for your blueberry muffins, we snack on them frozen, and of course for porridge and oatmeal and all those sorts of things. If you are looking for much longer term storage and you want to make sure that ice crystals don't form, then vacuum sealing might be the way to go. So you can see here, it really minimizes the space as well. Really easy to store a lot of these. I've labeled it 2 cups because a lot of my recipes for muffins calls for 2 cups of blueberries. So then I can just open it up and I'm ready to go. If you have any questions on freezing or just general food preservation questions, you can contact the URI Food Safety Education Program and we'll get right back to you. Thank you so much for watching.